Well, with any luck, this is streaming perfectly. And the sound is just amazing. And everybody watching is going to be in awe of how beautiful my voice sounds and how amazing this content is. And while my nose is itching, I'm going to talk to you about these journeys, these steps that a lot of people take and get stuck on an inner work journey or a dark night of the soul or whatever it is that you want to call it. That's the latest catchphrase of this journey. And where I'm going to start with all of this is, let's say you just live in your life, right? And you might have these whispers that something's wrong, but you ignore it, right? Like you look at your friends and they seem to be going through the same struggles, and whatever the issue is, whether it's in relationships, whether it's health, whether it's working a job that they hate, but they get paid really well and they spend their money on a holiday or alcohol or something else, it's normalized, right? There doesn't seem to be anything wrong when you average it out over the population. Then all of a sudden, something might happen to you. You might hear of a friend of yours escaping the gravity of their current trajectory of life, or someone dies, or you get fired from a job, or you get arrested, or um, you lose a lot of money. And then you might jump to Google or YouTube and punch in something in there. How do I, what's the meaning of this? I don't know what to do right now. I've just lost my job. Or friends of mine think this. Is it true? Or how do I find a relationship? Or how do I make more money? And then that plugs into the world wide web of pixels. And if you have your own business and do some social media marketing, you know what a pixel is. But a pixel is something that you have, that your web browser will have, that logs you into everything. All the all the hooks that other businesses have that look for those search words that you have gone to or websites that you've gone to, and they follow you around like a bad smell. So when you're on Facebook, you get an ad for what you're looking at, or anywhere. Look on your phone, ad for exactly what you're looking for, whether it's therapy or whatever the solution is that someone's paid to have on as an ad. And you might click that ad, or you might be suspicious. And most people just want to fix the problem and then go back to their life. So there's a kink in doing therapy and in getting fixed, right? Where to really move to the other side, you'll need to die to an old version of yourself. And most of the population isn't willing to do that right now. And what I see that's happening on a global scale is this collective unconscious is really coming to the surface. And the parts of you that used to run before, you can't run anymore. You're going to be confronted with all of the things that are being oppressed. And I use the word oppress because you're choosing to do it. So I'm using an empowered language here, right? So let's get back to this journey, right? And stick with me because you're going to get some nuggets out of this. You're going to get some clarity out of this, and you're going to find some steps in this process that you might have missed, or get some breadcrumbs on where you can find your own little internal gingerbread house to sort out all of your life problems. So it's common on this journey, and sometimes it starts in teenagerhood where you see your parents don't understand you, or you feel like there's something missing. And this is quite common for women is they go and study psychology. And if you don't want to go to university, maybe you go and study some other kind of healing art to understand yourselves. Maybe it's Reiki, Maybe it's kinesiology, maybe you do massage, maybe you do something else because you feel this calling to be a healer and you like being around people. But psychology is an interesting one because I find that when I'm working with clients and ex partners who have studied some form of psychology, whatever the branches are, depth, whatever they've studied, they can be too smart to be helped because this thing that I was talking about before, the you need to die to yourself, they're afraid to die to what they know. And a person can go through their entire life refusing to die to what they know. And I've been that kind of person where I refuse to get help to sort out my business. Like $2,000 in the bank, I needed to sign up to a $15,000 coaching package, and I knew it was the right thing for me to do. And I needed to make a, I needed to have a come to Jesus moment, right? And in that come to Jesus moment, and for those of you that don't know what a come to Jesus moment is, come to Jesus. It's a moment of sudden realization or comprehension or recognition that often precipitates a major change. And that's from the dictionary, where you realize that I cannot keep on going this way. I need to do something. Otherwise, I'm going to end up in a way of existence that is just not on for me. Like I'd rather not be here than do that thing, right? So you need to find a new pathway. And other come to Jesus moments can be a health crisis, have one of those, multiples of those. Relationship crisis, had multiples of those. Just get sucked into the latest global drama. Yep, had a few of those. Betrayal. But basically, the world as you knew it and your reality as you knew it to be, you get slapped with a reality check that the cost of living is going up. You're running out of funds. Either you're going to end up on the street or you need to have some kind of radical change in your life. Or end up in a relationship for another 20 years, or end up, you can see your kids are following in the same footsteps that you did, or your father did, or your partner did, right? So, in this step of discovery where you realize you have this come to Jesus moment, I mentioned before the Googling or the YouTube, what happens is you start modality shopping or expert shopping, right? And if it's in the context of relationships, you might go to John Gray or Alison Armstrong or Matthew, whatever his name is, or Andrew or Doherty or whoever the latest YouTube or Instagram or Facebook um, popular expert is on relationships. And what you could check is, well, they have a lot of content, they've got a lot of books, they must be credible. But you really got to ask, well, how are they living their life? And what are their kids like? Because how someone who gives advice lives their life is a great indicator. It's not always the best indicator, but it's a good indicator that they're embodied in their work, right? So it's very easy to give advice. I mean, and if you're a projector in human design, like you might find yourself giving advice all the time and it never lands because you're not waiting for an invitation. But if you're modality and expert shopping, what shows up here is you get buy lots of books, audio books. You might join a self-paced program. You're going through all the content, you're getting all these answers. Maybe it's about attachment theory. You might find some stuff about shadow work and inner child work and heart integration and depth psychology and maybe some gestalt and or maybe you get swept up into the personal development machine. You find a coach, they start coaching you on how to date. Or you might go do a Tony Robbins thing or some NLP thing, or one of your friends convinces you to go do something else with them, like maybe do some landmark as well. All of these institutions. And then you end up still feeling this, you might get some gains, but then in a year's time, 2 years' time, maybe 3, 6, 9 months' time, you're still not where you actually need to be. Maybe do some ayahuasca, maybe do some synthetic medicine, some LSD or MDMA or ketamine, maybe do some animal medicine, some Cambo, some Bufo. Maybe you start healing yourself. Start taking dietary stuff. You start doing some energetic stuff. Maybe some, like I mentioned before, maybe go and see someone who does Reiki, go and do some quantum healing or theta healing or whatever. And what can be missing in all of this, and this is the crux piece, is that it's not embodied. You have all this stuff done to you. And when you're having stuff done to you, that's part of the allopathic model where you go to a doctor, you get a prescription, take the prescription, and you expect to be healed. Or go to the hospital, get an IV, and they heal you. They give you something to heal you. And that works to a degree. Like you will get some gains out of that, some inner work gains, some shadow gains, some self worth gains, some self knowledge gains. But what really tips the needle here is taking radical ownership of your life. What really tips the needle here is being willing to die to this identity that you've built up from having low self worth. And what you will find in all of these modalities and all these things is that if you're a smart person in particular, you will get overwhelmed. You will have so many books and little tidbits and little pro tips on how to do relationships and do life that you won't know which one to draw on. And I mentioned human design before. And as far as technologies go, I see human design as a really important one to have a look at, purely to find your strategy and your authority. And I incorporate human design in my work. And there's plenty of free stuff on human design if you want to go into it. But as far as the attachment theory in mainstream psychology, it's only going to get you so far. I mean, go and check out a psychotherapist. Go and have a look at their relationships. I know plenty of female psychotherapists who are miserable in their relationships. Plenty. Why? Because theory doesn't always work. This is the embodiment piece. So when you start incorporating the body, you'll start to see your environment change. And this is the body work was something that was lost in the very early stages of psychology. So we have the spiritual work and you have the psychological work. And when you disconnect the two and exclude the body, you'll end up lost in a world of knowledge with people with credentials that will not be able to help you because they're applying a cookie cutter template to your life. So some pro tips here on where you can get additional help. And some of these will be on your inner work journey. I'd recommend books like The 5 Personality Patterns by Stephen Kessler. Amazing book. It describes the body and 5 particular types where you might discover what your pattern is when you get triggered. And knowing that is a crux piece that will amplify all of the inner work that you've done so far. The other technology or modality or specialist that I recommend as well is Catherine, can't remember her last name, Caroline, can't remember her last name. But she wrote the book called Existential Kink. And Existential Kink is a derivative of some of the lower self work done in the 80s and 90s, where you discover what the sexual kink is of the things that impact your life. For example, you might have a kink around sabotaging. You might have a kink around not being paid very well. And this technology will help you get to a point, and then you have diminishing returns because you need to address the wrath and the rage underneath all of that. And that technology doesn't get you there. Then there's core energetics and bioenergetics work. And I recommend researching those Now, the technology, from what I've heard from the people who have done this, I've done this, but I had a very good mentor who I don't know if he's still practicing or not, where he used the traditional lower self rage work. And what I'm hearing from people who have accepted my advice and gone to have a look at some core energetics practitioners, the work's been diluted. So, which means that the practitioners aren't going into the lowest of lower self. So, the part of you that wants to destroy, the part of you that would like corrupt innocence, desecrate innocence, and that's deep inner work that people that are up this upper level, they've just started to have a look at what's going on in their life, don't really want to know about, right? They just want to have a look at, and I've been here, and I just wanted to restore my life. How can I get rid of this depression feeling or existential anxiety and just go back to my life where I'm earning good money and I can just veg out? I can just Netflix and chill. I can play another hundreds of thousands of hours in computer games. Or when I was in my transhumanist phase, how can I replace my body? How can I replace my heart and my limbs and just become immortal? Because this flesh suit, nature is flawed, which is the transhumanist ideology. And what I've learned from a great book, and this is another book recommendation for you, is The Earth Has a Soul by Carl Jung. And I found that book, get your pens ready, from a guy called Michael Tessarian. And he does a podcast called Unslaved, and very intelligent man, and does a significant amount of detailed research into the fundamental issues of psychology, humanity, and this mass psychosis that we're moving ourselves through right now. So, and if you've listened this far, I really appreciate your patience and the energy that it's taken to be present with this. And these are the final steps. I'll be starting to wrap up here. Now, the other thing that I'd recommend you do is start putting money aside or resources aside to have a look at this. Maybe create a separate bank account where you put money in that you're going to dedicate to your inner self work. Because if you're not going to do this, if you're not going to prioritize your inner self work, something else will take the funds. And you will see this. And I see this quite often with people that I'm pre qualifying, where they won't reserve the funds to work with someone like myself. They will spend it on something else. And when they do that, their life takes an unattractive turn. And I say this as a warning and a recommendation that there'd be multiple moments in their life where they've hit a crossroads and then they've taken the easy path. And you see this on the hero's journey. You see this in movies. This is a trope in Hollywood and mainstream movies where you come to a point and you have a choice. Either you do the hard thing or you do the easy thing. And if you really want to be free, it's a requirement to do the hard thing. And then once you've done the first hard thing, all the sequential hard things become much easier because you understand the importance of taking responsibility for your life. You understand the importance of letting something go and hanging on to something else. And when I say hanging on to something else, when you let go of whatever that old you is, the vitality and exhilaration and hope and graciousness and potency and perseverance that's available on the other side of that will change your life and your relationships. And it can come as quite a shock to someone who doesn't understand what I'm talking about because it's beyond a knowing, it's a being. And while that might sound quite esoteric and extracted, and abstracted, until you do it, until you cross that bridge, until you are willing to put it all on the line, you won't get it. And you'll stay stuck in this healing loop. until the next come to Jesus moment appears in your life. And you only have a couple of come to Jesus moments in your life. And then what I've found in people that haven't wanted to work with me or work with somebody else or prioritize this unconscious part of their life, the sabotage or the rigidity or the part of them that doesn't want to be human or be here, or the part of them that just overgives or is a people pleaser or is a nice guy or nice girl, and their life takes a turn and it's a very challenging recovery to come back. You get stacked on with financial, health, and relationship issues until the pressure either breaks you or makes you. And it's a choice. And for me, like, I want everybody to have an incredible life. Like, I want everybody to be able to feel free. I want everybody to be able to generate their own income and generate their own purpose and generate communities. But all of these things require an understanding of the individual. And if you don't understand yourself, then you're not going to be able to have the space to understand somebody else and have compassion for somebody else. So you just end up projecting all of your stuff onto other people, which creates wars, creates tension, creates struggle. It's unnecessary. There is a struggle that is necessary in order to grow. And that's where the come to Jesus moments come in, where it's like, well, what didn't I listen to? What was the instinct injury that stopped me from listening to my body and my core knowing that something was off or something was right? And that takes embodiment, it takes dedication, and only a certain percentage of the population are here to do that. And maybe if you're watching this video, maybe you're one of them. Maybe you're someone who's here for the long game, the big game. And if you are, then you have my blessing, you have my grace, and thank you for listening. Mad love. Bye.